Hello everyone. Finally, the much awaited launch of the GSTAT portal has now happened on 24th of September by the Honorable Finance Minister in New Delhi at an event which consisted of a lot of delegates from the trade and industry, from the legal fraternity, from the higher departmental officials, and a lot of other dignitaries, where it was stated that GSTAT portal would now be becoming functional for filing of appeals online. So most of the cases which are now lying under first appeals, for which the order has been passed but they have not yet attained finality, we would find that there are a lot of appeals which are now being uh, going to be filed online. Now, what is the purpose and what are the functionalities of this portal? First and foremost is the filing of appeals, applications, interlocutory applications, cross objections online, for any applications which are to be filed before the GSTAT portal, or any petitions which is to be filed with the GSTAT before the GSTAT would be happening through this portal. Also, the progress of the cases and the cause list of the matters being listed in that particular week would also be available on the GSTAT portal. So, anything which happens with related to the case would now be completely available online. Also, any hearings which are conducted through virtual or digital mode would also be happening through GSTAT portal. Obviously, this is not a compulsory mode of attending the hearing. GSTAT would be offline as well, but anyone who attends hearing through digital mode would be doing it through this portal itself. Also, they now realize that though the due date, the statutory due date for filing of GSTAT appeals would be 30th of June. So this was provided through a notification in pursuance to the 56th GST Council meeting, that any orders which have been passed up to 31st March 26 would have the statutory due date for filing of appeals by 30th June 26. Any order which is passed subsequent to that, there would be a 3 months further time limit allotted for that. But understandably, there have been a number of cases which have piled up for quite a long time, because of which they have now provided a staggered date of filing. So for any orders which are passed before 31st December 31st Jan 22 would be before between 24th September 25 to October 25. So mind you, before this particular date, any order which is passed after 31st January 22 would not be even allowed to be filed. So all the orders which have been passed between the dates which have been specified here can only be filed after that particular date. This would ensure there's a chronology when it comes to filing of appeals online, and based on the appeal order dates, the first person who files the appeal gets the first preference in terms of hearing. So the orders which have been passed earlier would get the first preference in hearing, and they would be normally heard first normally. Obviously, you can file an early petition, that would be a subsequent procedure, but the idea is to make sure that the portal does not have a lot of load online, because if a lot of people start filing their appeals online, maybe the GSTAT portal would not be able to take so much of load in the beginning. So because of that, they have provided a staggered date of filing based on that, based on the due dates which have been provided in front of you. Also, this is the URL which is now functional, which is efiling.gst.gav.in, which is going to be the portal where you can see the user manual, the videos, how do you the e-filing. You can choose your role as a taxpayer authorized representative, and you can provide the ARN. Thereafter, the portal would verify if it is before 31st of January 22. If yes, the order is before 31st Jan 22, then you can proceed with the appeal filing. Also, once you get into the portal, you would also see the register option, where you can either register as a taxpayer or as an authorized representative if the taxpayer authorizes you to do so. And once you register and you provide your credentials, thereafter you would be logging into the portal. After doing all the formalities for logging in, there would be an appellant corner. So at the appellant corner, you would find that there is an option for appeal filing. So in the appeal filing option, you would be able to uh, enter your ARN or CRN against which you're supposed to be filing the appeal. Once you do that, there is a there are two options. Either you can file the appeal online or you can file it offline. If you file the appeal online, in that case, all the options which I'm showing in front of you would be available online. If you start doing it offline, these are the options which are going to be available with you. First and foremost is the order details, which is the kind of order against which you're filing appeal. Is it APL 04, which is the order, or whether the acknowledgement itself was rejected, which were the authorities who had passed those orders, also the adjudication authorities who had passed those orders, so that all of these people are made a party to this particular appeal which is being filed. So all of these persons who had passed the order, for that the details would be provided online, both for order in appeal and order in original. Also, you need to provide the self-certified copy of the order in appeal before the bench, so that that particular case is thereafter based on that particular order. Now, we also need to provide the date, the order ID, the period for which the dispute was pending, all of that here. Next is the basic details of the case, which is the basic case details in terms of the fact whether who was the jurisdictional authority who had conducted these proceedings, and whether the case is involving principal bench, that is place of supply related issues. In that case, it goes to New Delhi, the principal bench. Otherwise, the cases would be heard by the state bench. Also, thereafter the case details, it is required that a case summary, the summarized manner of briefing the case is very important. This is a very important page where all the grounds of appeal which is being raised in this case has to be provided. What is the case all about? What is the category of case? If there are multiple categories, you can select those categories here, and thereafter you can select the relevant category and provide your appeal. If required, you can add more category also. Also, the case summary would be available here, and it needs to be declared by the appellant as to what was the stand which was there before the what was the stand which was taken by the appellate authority, what was the order of the adjudicating authority, and what was the stand which now the assessee is taking. All of that needs to be provided right from the beginning. What was the stand before the adjudication, before the appellate, what was the stand of the revenue, and thereafter what is the current stand. All of that needs to be provided here. Thereafter, the details of the appellant with regard to their constitution, the name, where it was incorporated, when did it start functioning, all of that needs to be provided. And again, a very important part, which is the statement of facts of the case. Again, there's a word limit which is provided here. Of course, if you have a higher word limit, in that case you can always attach a statement. But here the idea is that in the brief you should be providing the entire case summary in brief in terms of the statement of facts. If you need to provide more statements, you can always add by adding duplicate rows. But for every row there would be a limit of 2000 words in terms of what you can write here. Appellant details would be the basic details of the appellant, the GSTAN number, the address, and all of that. Similarly, similar details would be required for the respondent, the assessing officer who had passed the order. The representative who is supposed to represent that particular person would also be provided at the beginning of the case to make sure that the appellant is declaring as to who is the person who is responsible for appearing and representation before the department. And a very important part where what happened at the order level, which is DRC 07, how much was the demand determined. Thereafter, what was the amount which was appealed before the first appellate authority, and what did the first appellate authority determine the amount as. So basically, from adjudication determination to dispute, what was the dispute, and final, what is the appellate demand which is there. And thereafter, out of the appellate demand, how much am I admitting and what is the amount under dispute. So all of this again has to be provided here, and whatever amount, if there is an IGST amount, that needs to be provided based on place of supply as to what was the determined amount and what is the admitted amount. Now there is a checklist which is provided, which contains a lot of questions, which as of now are around 30 questions, which have to be provided in yes or no format. very important parts of the case and the format in which the appeal has to be filed, whether all of those formats have been properly taken into account. So we have to make sure that we are providing yes or no answers to make sure that the appeal is filed in the right format, which includes whether the case summary has been provided, whether the self-certified copy has been provided, whether it is signed properly, whether it is indexed properly, whether it is bookmarked properly by providing appropriate flaps, whether the category of the case, the statement of the facts, all of this is provided, whether it is provided in English, and all the relevant things which are required to be followed as per the appropriate protocols in the format, whether those are followed or not. So yes or no answer has to be provided. This would help to make sure that the relevant aspects are completed. Of course, appeal fees also has to be paid when we are paying the pre-deposit based on the admitted and disputed amount. 10% of the disputed amount has to be paid as pre-deposit, plus the entire admitted amount has to be paid before filing the appeal, plus whatever appeal fees is there depending on the amount involved, that also has to be paid for the functioning of the tribunal. And all of this checklist, once the answer is provided, we have to upload the relevant documents together, which includes the appeal copy, the affidavit, all the annexures, the order copy, the wakalatnama, which is the authorization, whatever payments have been made with regard to pre-deposits and the appeal fees, all the relevant documents which are for condonation of delay, all of that needs to be provided here, and it needs to be appropriately signed, whether through DSC or through e-sign. All of these documents have to be appropriately signed before they are uploaded, right? So there should be a proper bookmark which should be there, and whatever calculation, if any, with regard to payments, all of that needs to be uploaded. And finally, when everything is uploaded and this particular format is there online, and the proper template is uploaded, you would find the summary of the entire case in front of you. And once you see this form in a summarized manner and you see everything is fine, in that case the appeal is filed in APL 02A. APL 02A is the format in which the appeal would be filed before the tribunal. So I'm sure this particular aspect with regard to appeal filing would be something which everyone was looking forward to, and we are hopeful that once this process uh, becomes online, and once we are able to do it very in the right manner, uh, we would be able to derive the relevant processes which would be most easily understandable for the judges, because all of these methods for uploading is for the benefit of the bench members, who would be able to click on that particular tab and be able to understand it. For example, they would click on a particular tab, they would know that these are statement of facts, this is the category of dispute, this is the case summary. Rather than just reading pages after pages, it would be understandable for them as to which tab do they need to go to for getting to the relevant answer to their questions. So based on that, we would be having a lot of best practices which would develop over a period of time to make sure that the appeal is filed in the right format. Because if we are not filing the appeal as per the relevant best practices, we might find that the bench members are not happy with the way the case is being approached. So that plays a very important role in the final decision of the case. So hopefully this particular tab which we are seeing here functions in the right manner, and we'll be able to function with a way that everyone is getting the right sort of justice from the tribunal which everyone was waiting for. So thank you so much everyone for giving a very patient hearing to this particular video. Thank you so much.